Today, I'm going to be giving you a closer look at the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is a book review from Mere Product Reviews. Big Magic is a really inspirational book that I pretty much recommend to everyone to read. It's about creating living beyond fear. So when I'm taking a look at a new book, I always like to take a peek at the table of contents. So this is split up into 6 different parts throughout this book. Part 1 is courage, Part 2, enchantment, Part 3, permission, Part 4, persistence, Part 5, trust, and Part 6, divinity. First of all, what is creativity? So it's really defined in this book as the relationship between a human being and the mysteries of inspiration. Something that's brought up really quickly initially in this book is the concept of fear. So I'm going to be going through and giving you some of my favorite quotes from this book. If I want creativity in my life, and I do, then I will need to make space for fear, plenty of space. So this, I believe, is the central question upon which all creative living hinges. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures that are hidden within you? Gilbert really talks about here how she believes that everyone is walking around with treasures within us, and it's all about what we're willing to do to unveil those treasures. She also says, when I refer to creative living, I'm speaking more broadly. I'm talking about living a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear. And talking about creative living at all in general, she says a creative life is an amplified life. It's a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life, and a hell of a lot more interesting life. Living in this manner continually and stubbornly, bringing forth the jewels that are hidden within you, is a fine art in and of itself. Gilbert is very inspirational, really gets you thinking about your life and what it means to have a creative life, and inspires you to think beyond and think, what is it that you really want to be doing? Creative living is a path for the brave. When courage dies, creativity dies with it. So what's really interesting here is that she really clarifies a path for the brave and not a path for the fearless. And this concept was eye-opening for me. She says creativity is a path for the brave, yes, but is not a path for the fearless. And it's important to recognize this distinction. I love this next part where she talks about fearlessness in a way that really struck home with me. If your goal in life is to become fearless, then I believe you're already on the wrong path, because the only truly fearless people I've ever met were straight up sociopaths and a few exceptionally reckless 3-year-olds, and those aren't good role models for anyone. This really put that idea of being fearless into perspective for me. And if I'm wanting or seeking being fearless, then I'm already on the wrong path. Fear has its place, and I just need to be brave. Living and working with fear. You don't need your fear in the realm of creative expression, but just because you don't need your fear when it comes to creativity, of course, doesn't mean that your fear won't show up. Trust me, your fear will always show up, especially when you're trying to be inventive and innovative. If you can't learn to travel comfortably alongside your fear, then you'll never be able to go anywhere interesting or do anything interesting. So Gilbert really talks about here, you don't need to lose your fear. You just need to get comfortable with it. Accept that it's going to be there and don't let it stop you from going places. She gives an analogy that's really stuck with me and I've shared on so many different levels for so many different topics since reading this book. She talks about how your fear is going to come along for the ride. But, and I'm totally paraphrasing, so I could get this off. Read it in the book. She says it much better. But she talks about how your fear is going to be with you for the ride, but there's a little understanding that you can have with your fear, such as you're going to sit in the back seat. You're not allowed to sit in the passenger seat. You can't be holding the map and giving me directions, and you are certainly not allowed to drive. Yes, you can be there. I see you, fear, and I acknowledge that I'm feeling feelings of fear, and that's normal, but I'm not giving you control, and you're not going to stop me from going anywhere. I'm going to work right alongside that fear. And I think fear, especially in creativity and a creative life, fear pops up all over the place and often stops us from moving forward with what we want to do or makes us change or adjust what we want to do. So I love that idea about getting comfortable with the fact that you're scared, but you're still moving forward. Gilbert also has some very kind of out of the box supernatural ideas about creativity that really got me thinking, and I think were very, very interesting indeed. There's a lot of ideas in here that I don't think you're going to pick up another book and find the same thing. She definitely has a unique voice. She says, ideas are driven by a single impulse, to be made manifest, and the only way an idea can be made manifest in our world is through collaboration with a human partner. She goes on to talk about the Greeks and Romans, who both believed in the idea of an external daemon of creativity, a sort of house elf, if you will, who lived within the walls of your home and who sometimes aided you in your labors. The Romans had a specific term for that helpful house elf. They called it your genius, your guardian deity, the conduit of your inspiration. Which is to say, the Romans didn't believe that an exceptionally gifted person was a genius. They believed that an exceptionally gifted person had a genius. She also says, I have come to believe that my genius spends a lot of time waiting around for me, waiting to see if I'm truly serious about the line of work. And she goes on to talk about a lot of ways that we prove our seriousness and we draw more creativity and more ideas to us by how we are willing to respond. She has a very interesting story about a very specific book. Elizabeth Gilbert is an author. And she had this specific idea for a book that she was willing to go along with, and she was writing and working her way through. And then some very extreme things happened in her life that threw her off course, and she stopped working on the book because she just didn't have time to be doing it. And when she tried to come back to it, it's like the inspiration for that was completely gone. And she met a friend who was also an author that she really respected, and she was talking to her one day about her book and the idea behind it. And then they got to talking about how this person had the same idea, and their outline for books was so close to identical. It was crazy. And so they were believing and going back and forth with this idea that when inspiration comes to you and you don't act on it, or you can't complete it for some reason, it will leave you and go to somebody else who will act on it. So that really got me thinking about all the things that I'm willing to act on. And if I won't, someone will take that idea and run with it. So if you've ever had this, idea for something inventive and you're like, yeah, someday I should do something like that. And then you see someone else come out with the same idea. She kind of has this concept that creativity and inspiration will come to you if you're willing, but if you're not willing to do anything with it, it will just go on to the next person. So this bigger thing outside of ourselves, the ideas are floating out there and they come to us if we're willing to use them, or they will go on to somebody else. So really interesting ideas about inspiration. Okay, success and failure. These were really interesting concepts to me throughout this book, because sometimes I think in our childhood life, we are willing to be creative, willing to try new things. We're just living and we're not thinking, I'm not going to try this because I might not be good at it, or I can't make money on that, so I won't waste my time on it. Right? We are just free to live a creative life. And that changes for us when we get older and we think that everything that we need to do needs to lead to some kind of success for us. Anyway, she says you can measure your worth by your dedication to your path, not by your successes or failures. Sometimes people won't even try to create at all because they're too afraid that they won't be good enough at something. She also says you might earn a living with your pursuits, or you might not, but you can recognize that this is not really the point. And at the end of your days, you can thank creativity for having blessed you with a charmed, interesting, passionate existence. So if our only reason for pursuing anything is to make a career out of it or to make money, then we're going to miss so many opportunities to live a creative life. You should do something that you love because you love it and not because you're amazing at it, and just be thankful for it and thankful for having something in your life that you love. And she really talks about, as an author, there's a lot of people that are artists that don't make money from their art, but they need to continue doing that because it's part of who they are. And she's fortunate enough now, after the success of, one of her books, that she was able to work full time as a writer. But before that, she had to be a dedicated writer and also have her day job. She says, you don't need anybody's permission to live a creative life. So this is really important to keep in mind. What other people think, say, or would say can often stop us from pursuing creativity because we're afraid of judgment, but we truly don't need permission. And if you think you do need permission and you're looking for it, Gilbert, in her book, All Over the Place, continuously gives you permission to go out and try and be creative. She also says, over the years, I've watched so many other people murder their creativity by demanding that their art pay the bills. To yell at your creativity saying, you must earn money for me, is sort of like yelling at a cat. It has no idea what you're talking about, and all you're doing is scaring it away because you're making really loud noises and your face looks weird when you do that. Love that. She is so funny, and just reading her words on the page, I could sit and listen to her talk or read her written word for hours every single day. I love the idea of creative entitlement that she brings out in this book. She says creative entitlement simply means believing that you are allowed to be here, and that merely by being here, you are allowed to have a voice and a vision of your own. Okay, this next concept is something I've never quite heard before. Really struck home and was original for me. The arrogance of belonging is not about egotism or self-absorption. In a strange way, it's the opposite. It is a divine force that will actually take you out of yourself and allow you to engage more fully in life. Because often, what keeps you from creative living is your self-absorption, your self-doubt, your self-disgust, your self-judgment, your crushing sense of self-protection. The arrogance of belonging pulls you out of your darkest depths of self-hatred, not by saying, I'm the greatest, but merely by saying, I am here. Your reasons to create are reason enough. Love that. Also, her ideas about study and development as an artist and a creative person are really inspirational too. So she's not in that place where in order to do something, you have to go get a college degree in it. You have to go and study this specific path. And she says this, do you want to study under the great teachers? Is that it? Well, you can find them anywhere. They live on the shelves of your library. They live on the walls of museums. They live in recordings made decades ago. Your teachers don't even need to be alive to educate you masterfully. That really inspired me, and I thought, who is it that I want to learn from? Who am I inspired by that I want to go out and learn from? Well, then I'm just going to go read what they said. I'm just going to go follow them. Also, her ideas in this book about perfectionism, man, I feel like she sees perfectionism for what it is, and she nails it and unveils it. And it's really changed the way that I think about this. Sometimes I think we walk around and go, well, I'm just a perfectionist, and we're proud of that, or we think it's a positive thing. And she really points out that perfectionism is nothing but fear. So she says this, I think perfectionism is just fear in fancy shoes and a mink coat, pretending to be elegant, when actually it's just terrified. Because underneath that shiny veneer, perfectionism is nothing more than a deep existential angst that says again and again, I am not good enough and I will never be good enough. Whoa. Right? Nailed it. She is so great at being encouraging in this book to just get out there and create. She says, pursue whatever fascinates you and brings you to life. Create whatever you want to create and let it be stupendously imperfect, because it's exceedingly likely that nobody will even notice. This really made me think, because I thought, how many times do I have this idea to create something and I think, oh, well, people don't really like it. Maybe they'll make fun of it. Maybe they'll think that what I did isn't good enough. Maybe I'm not the best at that particular thing and people will mock it, or they'll wonder why am I doing that in the first place? Because I've done a lot of creative things in my life that people are like, what is this thing you're doing? What are you even doing? People question me all the time about what I'm doing as a product reviewer because it's not something that they see very often. But I'm just going out there and doing. I'm creating. I'm doing something. And most of the time you don't have to answer to people for it because most of the time people aren't really noticing what you're doing in the first place. So why are you letting those thoughts stop you from going out and creating? She also says, done is better than good. If you tried something today and you just did it, like that's better than not doing it because it might not have been good enough. Done is better than good. Curiosity. So she really talks about curiosity a lot. She says that I believe that curiosity is the secret. Curiosity is the truth and the way of creative living. Curiosity only asks one simple question. Is there anything you're interested in? Curiosity is what keeps you working steadily while hotter emotions may come and go. And now I'm just going to share some cool quotes that are kind of off topic and from all over the place in the book. Number 1, as far as I'm concerned, we're lucky that inspiration talks to us at all. It's too much to ask that it also explain itself. Sometimes inspiration comes and goes. We don't know what it means and we're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? It doesn't always explain itself. We're just lucky that it's talking to us at all. Love that. She also says, in the end, creativity is a gift to the creator, not just a gift to the audience. So let it be a gift to you. Let inspiration lead you wherever it wants to lead you. Keep in mind that for most of history, people just made things, and they didn't make such a big freaking deal out of it. We make things because we like making things. She just really says it as it is. That's how it is. If you want to make things, just make things because you want to make things and because you like making things. Do you want to go make things? Yeah, but it might not be as good. It doesn't matter. Do you like making things? Go make things. The sooner and more passionately that you get married to this idea that it is ultimately entirely up to you, the better off you'll be. Isn't that the truth in so many areas of life? Everything is ultimately entirely up to you. And you're going to do much better by accepting that. And she says, sometimes I think that the difference between a tormented creative life and a tranquil creative life is nothing more than the difference between the word awful and the word interesting. Interesting outcomes, after all, are just awful outcomes with a volume of drama turned way down. I really like that. She really pulls out things about how many creators live their life tormented by their craft and their skills and their genius, and how she thinks it's really ridiculous and unnecessary. They're just cutting their life short, and you don't have to be tormented in order to live a creative life. It actually doesn't help you to lead a creative life. It just, you get overtaken by your demons instead of continuing to create. And many creative people that have been tormented have ended their lives through their demons rather than continuing on to create. So she doesn't quite buy that. And she just thinks, let's look at it as interesting rather than awful. We're just turning the drama way down. It doesn't have to be so dramatic to be creative. Own your creativity. Gilbert says this, you made it, you get to put it out there. Never apologize for it, never explain it away, never be ashamed of it. You did your best with what you knew, and you worked with what you had in the time that you were given. I just love the way that she speaks because she really addresses my reasons for not stepping forward and acting on all of my creative impulses and gives that permission that you might be waiting for. You did your best with what you knew and you worked with what you had in the time you were given. So be proud of it. You don't need to apologize for anything that you've created. You don't need to play it down. Okay, so these are some of my takeaways rather than direct quotes from Gilbert, but some things that I've taken away and some notes that I've left for myself in response to having read this book. Your takeaways may be completely different. I would love to hear when you go and read this what those top 3 takeaways have been for you. So the first one for me was that I want to be the kind of person that genius wants to dwell with. I want to be open and receptive and easy to inspire, willing to believe. And this kind of strikes me as like the Christian idea of being led by the Holy Ghost or the Spirit to fulfill your true purpose in life. You have to be open and receptive and listening in order to receive inspiration. But if I want to have a creative life, I have to live in such a way that I am open and receptive, that inspiration wants to come with me, and that I'm someone that's going to react to it. And I think the more that you act on inspiration, the more inspiration that will come. Also, when you grow curious about things, pursue them. Have solid faith in your own capabilities. When you need something, make it yourself. These are just ideas that I jotted down while reading, and I really love them. And this is another idea. Oftentimes I worry about how things are going to be received, even though it's hard to be anything but genuinely myself. But when I'm being genuinely myself, sometimes I worry about how things are going to be received. But you don't need to be discovered. You simply need to announce yourself. I'm here, and this is what I do. You don't have to worry about selling or overselling yourself. You just announce yourself. I'm here, and I deserve to be here. And that idea that because I'm here, I deserve to have a voice, opinion, a way to express myself. And that's all the right that I need. I'm here. And so therefore, here I am. And this is what I create. Overall, I'm going to say, read it. If anything in here has struck you or sounded interesting, I guarantee that your experience reading the book will be so much better than listening to this book review. You should definitely go and read it. I have recommended it to so many people. Yes, go read it. Go read Big Magic. Go read it right now. If you want to get inspired and begin living that creative life that you abandoned at childhood, pick up this book and have the courage to pick up that beloved hobby or that thing that you've always wanted to try but been scared of. Elizabeth Gilbert is captivating and inspiring from beginning to end. Her perspective itself is magic. So let her be your new life coach and lead you somewhere amazing. This is more than just a good read. It's an experience. So have the courage to live a creative life, your creative life, whatever that looks like for you. And no one has paid me or incentivized me to pass this on to you. They should, because I would sell it, but they don't need my help doing that. It's already selling pretty well, and it's been out for quite some time. So you should go and read this book, Big Magic. Love it. It also just made me, I just fell in love with the voice of Elizabeth Gilbert. And I like her fiction reading and everything, but this is just her talking to me and really being my life coach. And it made me want to go out and read everything that she's ever written and everything that she will write. I'm sold on her completely, 100%. And I appreciate so much having someone to look up to that lives a creative life and can show the way and inspire me to do the same. That's Big Magic, and this has been your closer look. Thanks so much for watching. I would love to hear from you what some of your takeaways have been from this book. If you loved it, if you didn't, let me know in the comments below. If there's something else that you think that I should be reading next, please tell me that as well. Check out my channel for more book reviews and mostly product reviews, DIY projects, and more. I'll see you guys next time.